Welcome to Stories from the Field, the Superintendent's Podcast. I'm Melissa Croll, and I also am part of the IEI family, and I will be guest hosting along with Sara for this episode. So, today on Stories from the Field, the Superintendent's Podcast, we're going to take a slightly different tack than we have with some of the other episodes this season. This time, we're going to talk a little on what it means to be a superhero, because when you think about it, school superintendents are like superheroes. They're a special breed, quietly doing their thing behind the scenes, making magic happen in our schools and communities. Through their work, they touch the lives of countless students, helping them chase their dreams, creating school systems that are beacons of hope, knowledge, and opportunity for the future. On today's episode, we're going to talk to some of these special people as they bid farewell to the school districts that they have helped develop and tended over the course of their careers.
All right. Today we have Dr. April Grace, who is the retired superintendent, just retiring this year from Shawnee Public Schools in Oklahoma. Thanks for joining me today, Dr. Grace. And first of all, please just kind of give us an outline of how you got to where you are, where you were, I guess, as of last month, right? As to superintendent. What was your trajectory? How did you get there?
Yeah, I always say I think I had a little bit different trajectory than a lot of people. I mean, not different in the sense that I came through all the traditional ways, right? Classroom teacher, building leader, assistant superintendent, then superintendent. So that's a pretty typical trajectory. I think what may be different about my trajectory is that I feel like I have a more kind of balanced career. There's a lot of breadth and depth to it. So, and when I say what I mean is I spent almost 13 years in the classroom. I spent 7 years at building level leadership. I was an assistant superintendent for 8 years, and then I was a superintendent for 7. So there's like an overall balance sort of to my career that I didn't do just like something for a minute, dip my toe into it, and then move on to the next position. I feel like I stayed in every position and every level long enough that I gleaned a lot of insight and wisdom from it, and it just helped build more tools in my tool belt for the next position. And so I always try to tell up-and-coming leaders, like, don't despise the day of small beginnings. Just be present where you are in that moment, in that position. And as you do that work diligently, the next thing opens up. And that's just kind of how it worked out for me. So I taught anatomy and physiology. I taught science. I did teach a little bit of chemistry, a little bit of biology as well. But mostly my schedule was so full with anatomy and physiology that I taught that pretty much full time. Medicine was really my first love. So I really intended to go to med school at some point, or PA school. And so I, did science education as sort of the backup to do something in between while waiting to get to med school. And quite honestly, just fell in love with teaching. Just loved it. And when my daughter was 5, I did have some interviews and was slated for the next year for PA or med school. Because I interviewed for both. And then I just could not fathom giving up those years of her life, knowing the dedication and the commitment it was going to take for those periods of time. So I stayed in the classroom, loved every single minute of it, had multiple opportunities to sort of exit out of education along the journey. But it just always tugged at my heartstrings. And I felt like it really was kind of at the end of the day, what I was called to do, what I was meant to do. And I have a lot of family in ministry, so I always say this was my ministry. It was the path I was supposed to be on.
I am here with Tim Mitchell at his retirement party. Tim Mitchell is a superintendent of schools for Riverside Community School District. And after 27 years
being a school superintendent.
Tim is retiring.
I never thought I'd be a school superintendent. I started out with a degree in biology. I wanted to work in a biological field, and it was funny. I didn't want to get a master's degree. So my coach at high school, my tennis coach, said, he was the ed professor. He goes, let's go student teach, let's get in this ed block and let's start teaching. So I started teaching, and I never wanted to get a master's degree, and then I became a superintendent. I had to get a master's degree, a specialist degree, and a doctorate.
Oh,
and
so a whole bunch of school.
I ended up with a whole bunch of school. The absolute thing I didn't want.
Debt, right?
A whole bunch of debt. But I think some people who know me know the story that I was just minding my own business. My first principalship, I'd only been a principal less than a year, and the superintendent leaves. And before the end of the night, I'd gone to my first executive session of a school board meeting, and I walked out, superintendent of the
Okay, that's
school
not
district.
how it normally goes
That's
down.
not how it usually goes down, you know. And I was like, holy cow! I was 35 years old and was the youngest
Super young.
superintendent,
Yeah.
the youngest superintendent in the state of South Dakota.
I've been in education 36 years. I started immediately after graduating college way back when in 1987. You were probably negative 12 years old or something.
-1.
-1. Okay. So, it's interesting, Melissa. I think that, especially the last couple of years in education, I think people have really been very, negative about education in general for a variety of reasons. And I've taken the exact opposite approach. To me, leadership always matters. It always has, always will. And so at a time when we've been called to be the biggest, best leaders we can, to lead school districts, it's been an awesome responsibility and something that I've never taken lightly. And I'd say that my colleagues around the country feel the same way. That, we've answered a really important call. So not necessarily looking forward to retiring, because I'm going to do a variety of other things that we'll get into later. But it's happening sooner than later, right? So I have 3 more board meetings left. I do count those down. But the reality is, July 31st would be my last day.
Sure. Thank you, Melissa. Well, I've been in education 41 years, and I've served pretty much every role during that time, teacher, chairperson, assistant principal, assistant superintendent. So pretty much through the gamut. I'm looking forward to first getting a little R&R, a little rest. It's been the last few years, I kid around and say to people, they've been like dog years. They've been really tough, with the pandemic and everything. But I'm looking forward to just relaxing a little bit with my family and friends the first month or two. And then the only thing I really have on the books to do is I'm teaching a doctoral course for a local university in a program for administrators who are pursuing their doctorate. So I'm looking forward to teaching again. I haven't taught. I used to teach college before my kids started with the whole, soccer and little league stuff when I had some time. So it's been a long time, but I'm really looking forward to getting back in the classroom.
So talking about that first day as superintendent, since you never really wanted to be one and now you are one, how was that first day? What were some of your feelings walking into that?
What I always like to do, and that's why it's such a great family in IEI, is I reached out to some mentors, some people that I knew, and talked to them about, what were some of the things I needed to take a look at. Not unbeknownst to me, the superintendent there had kind of been disengaged. He'd been kind of looking for the next place to be. And so I get in there, and there's a big pile of desk stuff there. And I was like, holy cow, what do I do? And so luckily when you're a new superintendent, the state kind of helps you a little bit, and some of the other compliance groups kind of walk in, they feel sorry for you, so they come in and give you a lot of technical assistance. So we were able to work really hard, and over 13 years, we were able to get that school to be one of the top schools in the country. We were one of the first ones to really make the mark on a No Child Left Behind, where we had economically disadvantaged special ed kids and minority students. It was a school district that had 50% Native American off the Native American reservation, and we were able to meet adequate yearly progress in those subgroups, which is something other schools were not able to do. And just had a lot of hard-working teachers.
Just had an extraordinary career, and I can't say enough about the amazing career I've had. And I always felt like every position I was in, it was the best thing I'd ever done up to that point in my life. And I've felt that way now. I haven't decided that yet about retirement, because, it's a little weird when you go from 460 miles an hour and you kind of slow the train down. There's a lot to process with that. So, but that's sort of a quick snapshot, like I said, then building level leadership, and then assistant superintendent of HR for 8 years, and then superintendent for 7. So just phenomenal ride. It was great.
Well, you can't forget running for state superintendent.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, that was an exhausting experience, but it was also very, very rewarding experience. People always say, "Well, do you regret doing it?" Since I got beat in a primary runoff, and I said, "No, I don't. I don't regret anything about it." So it was a great experience as well. I saw parts of the state that I might not have seen otherwise, interacted with communities and people all across the state that maybe I wouldn't have had the opportunity to interact with otherwise. And so it was a very rewarding, exhausting experience, but it was very rewarding at the same time. It was very tiring, but it was an exceptional experience as well. And I don't regret it at all.
So when you look back on your career, whether it's being a superintendent or whatever it is, whatever role you've been in, what are you most proud of?
What am I most proud of? I think one of the things I'm most proud of is I was always, when I became an administrator, I was giving the advice to always, if it's good for kids, make sure it happens. And so I've let that be my guide through all my years as an administrator, which have been almost 30 now. So just making sure that I'm putting forward great programming as a superintendent for kids. When I came here, they asked for, can we have some modern classes like coding and medical assisting and things along those lines? So we were able to get those up and running. And, through the years, just bringing about more challenging courses for kids that they liked and they felt successful in. And I'm a special education teacher, so at heart I've always tried to champion the underdog, and I've always been able to do that. So that's just trying to create a successful environment for all the students, whether I was a principal, a teacher, or as a superintendent. So creating environments for success. So that's what I'm most proud of.
So that's something, what at the end of the day are you most proud of? That's obviously
I'm most proud of that, even though there was a lot of things to get in the way, instructional leadership became my forte. And I always embraced building the capacity of my board, building the capacity of myself, building the capacity of my teachers so that they could serve students at a higher level. And because of that, it's not rocket scientist, to really have good schools. It's just about good people implementing good strategies, having good relationships with kids, and just making it happen. And so, I was very fortunate to walk into 3 situations, and all of them needed a little bit of help. I got a lot of support from the community. I got a lot of support from my boards. I got a lot of support from my staff. And through that, we were able to, I feel good about when I left all 3 of my school districts as being a superintendent, that they were in a better place when I left than when I got there.
When you are looking back on your career and you think about all of the things that you've done, what is something that you feel most proud of that you've done?
Sure. And there, looking back, there's a lot that I'm really, really proud of. And I think when you look at being able to help students learn and grow, that's really what you want to be able to do. And so we were able to go from hundreds in student growth rating all the way to number 11 in the state of Ohio, which is really a manifestation of great work of other people. So as a superintendent, I'm really proud of that. It's awesome. But it's because of the relationships that we have with students, the relationships we have with teachers, support staff, administrators. So I'm really, really proud of the incredible work of other people to get to that point. The key is, the sustainability of that. But I'm really proud of the great work, the relationships we have with our students, with staff, administrators, so forth. I think I'm most proud of that, the work that's done day in, day out by others.
What do you feel most proud of? What are you most proud of in your education career?
Oh gosh, I think there are a lot of things I'm proud of. I'm exceptionally proud of the work that we were able to do while I was superintendent for kids, programs we were put in place, to try to create additional access and opportunity for students. I was in a, socioeconomically challenged district. 94% of our kids were on free reduced lunch. So the opportunity to really impact future generations and provide something for them to see and be and just have access to programs and opportunities that quite honestly weren't in that district prior to my coming there. Aviation and aerospace programs, robotics, lots of STEM stuff. I mean, we expanded a lot of things. And, so I'm very, very proud of the work that we did during that time. I'm proud of the work I did as a teacher, just the relationships I built over that time period and some of the great things. I was also our activities director at our high school back at that time. And, so I was in charge of prom and graduation and homecoming parades. And it was fun. Overall, I look back on my career and I'm just exceptionally blessed. I'm, felt really blessed to be elected by my peers as only the second female in the 90-year history of our state association to be elected as our president, or any officer position as a female. And still there's not a female now on that board. So, it had been 30 years since we had a female on that board in any position. And so, proud of that my colleagues had that much respect and belief in me. And then I was able at the end of the year, after serving president, I was selected as Oklahoma Superintendent of the Year. And so, those are things I think that you're always proud of, but I'll always be most proud of the work that we did for kids. And the work that we did negotiating great contracts for teachers to raise salaries and provide supports and provide benefits for them. Those are the things I'm most proud of when I look at the body of work.
This is a tough question, but what if you could have had more of an impact on policy or changes? Like, where did you feel like your hands were tied and you wish you could have done more, or was out of your control kind of a little bit?
I think, sometimes it's just, there's a lot of things that are compliance driven. And there's a lot of times where you're spending a lot of time doing a lot of paperwork, doing a lot of forms, doing a lot of stuff that you have to even give the federal government, the state government. I just wish along the way they would let us be instructional leaders, be with teachers, be with students more, being able to get us away from the kind of the management kind of things and into instructional things. And I see young administrators working every day to try to get above and beyond the management type of thing and get into really leading the district to where it counts, which is making kids successful for the next century. So I think, that's always been the thing about the job that I've kind of complained about the most, is that there's a bureaucracy that's been created. Right now I'm working on this federal grant. I got to get it done before I retire.
You told me about that.
And it's just been
get that done.
The paperwork. Come on. It's $150,000 for some security.
Yeah.
I mean, give me the money, trust that I know what I'm doing, and let me do good things for my kids.
Yeah.
What do you wish that is something you would have had more influence over?
Sure. During the COVID years, if you will, I remember very early on, we ended up passing a policy that basically gave me complete autonomy over decision making, which was wonderful. And I remember early on, I said, we can, should, and need to do more for our students. And I think, I was on multiple podcasts before, and for a long period of time, people were like, what keeps you up at night? Mm-hmm. And so I guess what always kept me up at night is that we can, should, and need to do more. So when I look back, I guess it was those times when I could have had a deeper influence in lives, in homes, a better influence that when a couple of children that we know that we loved, and we could have done maybe more when they took their lives. We could have done more to help kids make better decisions, to not get involved in other situations. There's been 9 students during my tenure that have been involved at their funerals, one way or another. And so, when you talk about losing students, there's nothing worse than that. So I guess looking back, it would be all those students that we could have saved, that we would have been able to save them, because there are 9 precious lives that are no longer with us, that ultimately I wish I could have had a deeper influence to be able to still see them today.
To be honest with you, really to have had more influence over all teachers in terms of understanding that not every child comes to your classroom in the same place, and that you really have to meet each individual child where they are and bring them further from that point. Everyone kind of expects, I was an elementary school principal, and third grade teachers couldn't understand why second graders weren't coming with these skills. And we sat down and had conversations, and second grade teachers weren't teaching that skill. Okay, so that's unrealistic to expect them to do that. So what can we do to change that? And then in the upper levels at the high school, really to get teachers to understand that not every other kids have other things going on in their lives now. They're still children, but they're adolescents, and a lot of other factors are happening. So maybe your homework assignment isn't the most important thing to that child. And should it really be the most important thing to you? So really trying to get people to understand that, kids are people too. and really, and that's a battle you have all the time, because you reach lots of folks, but not everybody gets there. So that's something I wish I could have made everybody understand.
Oh, gosh. I mean, I think you always wish you had more influence over different pieces of legislation that impact education, where oftentimes we have lawmakers that, I always believe are trying to make the best decisions they can in the context of understanding they have, but they often don't understand the realities of how things play out in the real world in school business. So I think you often always realize that you had a little more impact on that, or a little more impact on some of the red tape that you have to deal with often, because I'm always trying to look at how do we take things off people's plate? How do we streamline things? How do we help people see things are all interrelated so that they don't feel like they have 17 plates that they're spinning all the time? So I think you always wish that you had a little more influence over those things. And we always wish we had more influence over education funding, because more funding means we can do more things for kids, number one. And number two, we can better support our staff with resources or salaries or, all the things that they may need. And so those are always the things I'm going to hope and wish that I had more influence over. You look at our country now, and we have we've got such low voter participation across the nation, and it's certainly an issue in Oklahoma. You wish you had more influence over things like that, so you could get a balance of viewpoints and perspectives, and a balance of people at the polls voting. We tend to get a lot more of the extremes that are always at the polls voting, and the centrists, the people in the middle, the people that are more moderate in their ideologies, that are, looking at things, I think, from a more holistic perspective, and how we all work together versus how we all divide each other. I wish I could impact that a whole lot more and influence that, because it does end up spilling over into school communities. And we're seeing a lot of that spill over into our school systems in today's time. And so I think you always wish you could influence those things a little more.
And the only other thing is when politics get involved. I mean, politics are a big part of education, because everybody likes to say they support education, whether they're a state or a national legislator. But I think sometimes when the politics gets involved, there's just some things that happen that just sometimes I don't know. I think people think they're well thought out, but when they all play out, there's a real big struggle there. So when politics are in the forefront and you're not really, like I said, I got into it because I want to be a teacher. I want to help kids. When I got to be a principal and superintendent, I wanted to be around teachers, I wanted to be around kids, and I wanted to raise instructional improvement. And that's what I am most proud of, is I have 3 schools that I led. And I can guarantee you that with the help of school boards and teachers and people in those communities, all those 3 school districts were better than I left than when I got there. That's awesome. And that's what I wanted to leave my mark. That's what I want to be my legacy.
And we just have all these things out there in the world right now, which, we already had a teacher shortage, and I think many of these things that are going on are dramatically impacting our school communities. And I'm very concerned. I've got a 5-year-old granddaughter, and I'm really concerned about how all those things impact the educational future of our kids. And the kids that'll get the most left behind, for lack of a better way to say it, or the kids that'll be left with the most fallout from this, in my opinion, will always be our students that are more economically challenged. Absolutely. Because, if I don't particularly care for what's going on in a school system where my granddaughter is, we'll find ways to get her in a place, hopefully, where she can get that support, right? So, but not every family is going to have the ability to do those things. And so, I do worry about the impact on future generations and our society as a whole, with some of the things that are going on just at a large scale.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You mentioned, after you retire, you're going to get to teach a doctoral class. Is there anything else that you're looking forward to in the future? Any plans? Are you a fisherman? Do you like to golf? What are you looking forward to? What else?
No, honestly, actually, I'm looking forward to golfing more. I hit it very straight, but I don't hit it very far. So I have to work on that, which is a fun thing. I get to do that with my sons. That's kind of like our activity together. Even though they're grown now, we still make time to go golf together. I really want to be able to travel. I haven't, I've been on a bell schedule and on a school calendar for my entire life, really, since, forever. And to be able to go away in September is something that has never presented itself before. So I'm honestly looking to go back to Europe in the fall. I went for the first time only a few weeks ago on an IEI-sponsored trip, which was absolutely fabulous. And that's my first thing, to get back in the fall. And then a group of my cousins and I that we've grown up together, we're all around the same age, and a few of them are retiring next spring. So we're going to all go to Italy together.
Oh, so, how lovely.
So travel and golf. That's other than teaching, travel and golf. I think that's really going to be my mantra.
Well, it is very well deserved, and please know that your II family will always be here for you if you ever need anything, and we will miss seeing you at our events, of course. But you're not too far away from Doug, our CEO, so I'm sure that you guys might see each other in passing at the local deli. I don't know.
This is true. I told him, I said, hey, you have to work on an alumni rate,
Yeah, there you go. Well, I appreciate it, and we wish you luck in the future, and we know that you've got some big shoes to fill, but we're sure that whoever is filling those shoes is going to do a good job, and thank you for your service and education. We can't tell you how much we appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much, Melissa. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
What next?
Basically, for first is to just take some time and decompress a little bit. 27 years of being a superintendent.
Absolutely. 40 in education.
40 in education.
You need a rest.
This school district went really well for me, but we certainly had some big hurdles along the way, and going through COVID and all that kind of stuff, and taking some breaks. But then, as you know, we've got a camping site on the Missouri River. I grew up where I spent a lot of my time, especially during COVID when I was isolating, and it's just a good place to sit down and relax and think.
Yeah.
And it's also, I like to golf. I always golf at the IEI events, and so I'm going to sign up and do a lot more golfing. And then we're moving to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, where I have 5 grandchildren.
Oh, that's so awesome.
3 of my daughters are all there, so we're really excited to be all close together.
You might become a full-time babysitter.
My youngest grandson said my second youngest grandson said, Grandpa, I timed it. I can be at your house in 7 minutes with my bicycle. So I'm going to hold him to that.
That's adorable. Yeah. I love that.
Well, I keep asking myself that every day. Right now it's rest and refuel and continue to figure out how I continue to give back. I'm too young to sit around and do nothing. So it's just really right now kind of rest and refuel, and I'm work on some national projects, and I'm, trying to help a company get a nonprofit family foundation going to give back to education. And I'm doing some hype squatting to some school districts to kind of open their school districts and be encouraging. I'm just doing that to give back. I'm just, doing it for free, not charging anything like for that, just doing it to give back and be encouraging because of the times that we're in. So right now it's just kind of a little mix of this and that. So, yeah. Which is fun, and I'm enjoying, we'll see how long I keep doing that. I have 3 E's that I always live by, whether it's the work I do or personally, and it's always to elevate everything I'm a part of in every way I can, to encourage others to be the best version of themselves, or just encourage them in whatever way they need, and to empower people in whatever way I can. Sometimes that's the resources, positions, connections. There's all kinds of ways we can help empower people. So I imagine I'll still keep doing that. That's kind of the core of who I am and what I like to do. So I'll be trying to find ways to continue doing that.
superintendents or district leaders might be listening to this, what is some advice that you would give them to kind of get through those tough times of when they look back and they're thinking, or they're in it right now, right?
Yeah, well, there's no really, we all have advice, right? I would say be really present in the homes with the families. That was something that was always very, very difficult. You want to give space, but the reality is you want to also let them know that you care. So
right.
However you're going to communicate with the families or family, one of the things that I always did with the people who I had really great relationships with, I would reach out early and often to let them know. You want to give them space, but the other thing is you want to be able to help. And so we were able to help. We were able to provide a lot of support for families, and a couple of the families that were in great need, we were able to help facilitate support. And I think during that time of great need and great sorrow, being able to do that was comforting for the family and for families in this case. But I would just be omnipresent to make sure that the parents and families know that you care and that you're there and that you will continue to support, but not just during the time of immediate sorrow. So what are you going to do to help sustain that over the long run? And I believe that we've been able to do that. The different anniversaries that unfortunately are, a reality. So what are you going to do? How are you going to continue to support those families? I think that's really important.
Yeah, and it just sounds like being there for what they need. There's not really a prescription for what to do in every scenario. It's what do they need, right?
Yeah, so whether it's the completion of suicide or a violent act or a sickness, you should have a team internally that comes together to talk about the varying level of support, not only for the families, but also for the students and staff in many cases. So we've had a lot of that being around. I'd be glad to share any information. We'll still have that, but we have a crisis prevention team. We have a crisis team in general. So if you can't prevent it, what are you going to do afterwards? So I think there's a variety of things that you will look at. But most importantly, it's that acuity of care that we need for our families.
Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like you have a wealth of knowledge that you are obviously more than willing to share to others. So if anyone ever needed to reach out to you, I'm sure that you would be willing to help with that. So, looking towards the future and not necessarily looking forward to retirement, but looking at what's next, what are some next steps for you? What are you going to fill your time with?
Yeah, thanks, Melissa, for that question. The reality is, moving forward, I don't know a lot of people that are like, hey, I just want to go fishing, right? So I'm not going to go fishing. I'm terrible at that, in fact. It's one of the many things I'm terrible at. But I'm going to try to maybe extend my influence a little bit if I can, say that humbly, to be able to go and work with school districts. I have several school districts already that I'm going to be working with, individual coaching of leaders, helping middle level, helping CTE programs, career technical education. And so really looking across the board. So I'll be doing speaking, consulting. I'm going to finish a couple book projects.
Well, I love that. And I love that you're not, stepping away from education. I think it speaks to how much you love what you do, that you want to stay in it and you're not just trying to, get out, like you said, go fishing, go golfing, just kind of relaxing. You are, while you're leaving this role, you're going to stay in the education world and make sure that, you're still making a difference. And I love that.
A long time ago, former boss of mine, Dr. Thomas Tucker, talked about changing and saving lives, because that's really the business we're in. And we're also in the business of extending opportunities for kids, and these equitable opportunities we need to have. And the more equitable opportunities we provide for kids and families, the better chance that we have to break these cycles of poverty and unlearnedness and so forth. So being able to go around, perhaps around the country, and talk about what we could do to create these opportunities, that'll be awesome. To highlight these opportunities as well. So, we'll see what happens in the future, but I am very excited to be able to help some other people.
Well, we're excited for you, Tom, and we can't tell you how much we appreciate you being a part of the IEI family. You've been such a big part of us, and you'll be missed, and definitely in some senses you'll be missed, and hopefully we'll be able to see you around. And just a deep appreciation to you for your service to the education world and your continued service. And we appreciate that you are going to continue to give your expertise to those that need it. So thank you so much. Thank you for your time. We appreciate you, and we will see you around.
Thank you so much. 18,921,600 minutes I've been in education.
Wow.
And I'm looking forward to extending that more. And I will say this, with each and every one of those minutes I've been lifted by other people, you included, the IEI family, and really appreciate it. Hashtag IEI family.
We love it. We love the hashtag. All right. Thanks so much, Tom.
Just a quick shout out to our producer, John Freeman, who joined us to lead the work during our podcast this season and is the voice you're hearing sometimes in the background asking questions. Thanks so much for being with us, Johnny. We appreciate all you've done for the podcast. We'd like to let you know that to create these stories, it takes a village. This episode was directed by John Freeman, videography and audio by Sho Matsuyama, Chase Mazo, John Freeman, Sara Croll, and Doug Roberts. Edited by John Freeman, Chase Mazo, and Sho Matsuyama. Stories from the Field podcast was produced for IEI with Century Tree Productions. Be sure to like and share these stories with anyone and everyone. Yes, they are that inspiring. IEI is committed to bringing educational leaders together to ensure that they have the influence, access, resources, and support they need to lift students' voices. We empower superintendents to amplify their voices, becoming thought leaders who shape the future of education.